Hello, I'm David Ebony, an art writer and editor, and here with Rob Zombie. I'm very honored to be here.
Thanks for coming.
When you wake up, Rob, how do you decide what you're going to do?
I don't know how I decide. I mean, I just wake up and there's always a lot of things to do. But I would like to be painting. You know, painting is the thing that I like to do because it doesn't involve anyone else, but it's the thing that falls between the cracks the quickest because I basically just, it's not a business to me, it's just something I do.
How do you fit it in with everything else you're doing?
I don't know. It just, the canvas will sit there forever, and every time I walk by it, I'll work on it a little bit. Or a lot of times, if I'm, because we have a setup where I'll have my studio where I'm painting, but then also there's a recording studio, so sometimes when something is going on there that's tedious, I'll just walk out and go paint for 15 minutes. But I never really sit there for hours and hours and hours and paint.
You don't?
I would like to, but I just don't.
Do you prefer night or daytime to paint?
It's typically an early type of thing. I never paint at night.
As I mentioned, when I first saw these works, I found them so funny. I couldn't stop laughing looking at each one because of the text, the images, the way you mash up music and cartoons. What is the role of humor for you in art? How do you think about humor?
I take things very seriously, but I don't take things very seriously. Like, I can never discuss myself or what I do in a serious manner. And when I hear people do that, it makes me kind of ill because it sounds so pretentious. So everything I do is kind of ridiculous, I mean, I think. But at the same time, one of the problems I would always have is, as wanting to paint is like, what do I paint? You know, I'm not going to paint bowls of fruit all day or water lilies. This is just not my world. And then when I hit upon, well, what is my world? This is my world. Just a kid raised on television. I watched TV 8 to 9 hours a day, every single day. Everything I knew was from television, everything in my brain, TV, radio, this is all I know, you know? So that's where it all started coming out. And it is ridiculous when you like put it all together. So I always try to do like, you know, I try to do something that's more serious, like the fawns, as far as painting wise. And then I get into other things that are ridiculous, like this is from an old Jerry Lewis comic. So I just take things from everywhere.
What was the connection between Fonzie and Frank Zappa?
There is no connection until now. But that's how it usually goes. I mean, it's like here, it's like Frederick March as, you know, Mr. Hyde. But then does it tie into the animated version of the Beatles? Yes, it does now. In my mind, it makes sense. These are all the things that are going through my head. Or sometimes it's as simple as that's the music I'm listening to while I'm painting. Or a lot of times I would have a little TV next to the canvas and I would actually be watching TV while I was painting. Oh. Because I can never...
Like Warhol.
I can't focus on one thing. I have to have a lot of things going. So it'll just, I don't even know what's on these paintings anymore, but whatever I'm doing will seep into the painting. The movie I'm watching, the TV show we're watching, like at home at night, it just becomes part of the painting.
What's your process? Do you start with a drawing or a collage, or how?
I go immediately to the canvas. My usual process will be sitting there forever like, what should I paint? And I just stare at that big white canvas. And then I'll come up with something like, oh, you know, Telly Savalas. And then I'll start painting Telly Savalas's face. And then the rest of the canvas will be completely blank. And I go, now what? And then I saw this picture of Maurice Evans as Dr. Zaya smoking a cigarette on his break from Planet of the Apes. Well, there you go. It completes itself. That's how I make music. That's how I do everything. Everything is a collage in my mind and kind of comes out that way in the music or the paintings or, you know.
And Soupy Sales, a favorite. Was he a favorite as a kid?
That's actually Steve Martin.
That's Steve Martin.
In the gatefold of his first record, Let's Get Small. It does look like Soupy Sales, actually. Okay. Although Soupy Sales will find his way into something. But yeah, that's the gatefold from the Steve Martin's first record. Because he has the nose and glasses on, it kind of looks like Soupy Sales. But yeah.
What is the difference between the creative process of making music, directing a film, and making a painting?
Well, I mean, a film is the most regimented because one, you have to figure it all out in advance. Even though things will go wrong constantly, you have to change on the fly. But, you know, it's like you have this much time in that day, you have this many scenes you must complete because that actor's contract ends tomorrow, this set will be wrapped and you'll be moving. So that's like, so regimented. Whereas a painting, it's like, I can't figure it out, I'll come back to it next week. Or even a song, I don't know what I'm doing, I'll work on it tomorrow. But a movie's like, I need to finish this scene right now, by lunch, after lunch I need to move here. So all the sort of like procrastinating and thought process has to go way in advance. Once you're on set and there's 200 people waiting to work, you need to know every second of what you're going to do. So that's the way it's very different,
And what about music?
Music is much more like my painting, where I'll take forever to finish something because I'm like, what's the matter? I like to finish it and live with it and listen to it. And usually what I do, if I listen to something long enough, I'll go, this song's way too long. And I start chopping it up because I have kind of a short of attention span for things sometimes. And same thing with paintings. I'll just let it sit there it takes me a really long time till I go, yeah, it's done.
Let it go.
Like I'll just add in I'm gonna put this one little word here, now it's done. Or now I'm so sick of looking at it, I'm considering it done.
That is the classic question, how do you know it's done?
Yeah. Well, you get right to that point where you're just about to ruin it. And I did that on this one. I had Frank Zappa finished and I kept messing with it. And I stood back and I go, I just ruined it. It doesn't look like him anymore. So I had to start all over and do it again. But that was just because I couldn't stop messing with it. I had it done and I kept messing with it. I've done that a couple times.
What was it that pushed it over the edge?
I just kept messing with his nose or his eyes or something and it no longer looked like him. And then I had to fix it. But most of the time I'm like, yep, that's the Fonz, walk away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't keep diddling with it.
It's a very lonely job to paint. You've got to be only in your own head, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, because I do so many other things, it's almost like it's a nice break from everything else, because you go on the road, you're on tour, and there's so many people around every day, constantly, or make a movie, but this is like, oh good, I can just be here by myself doing this. And we have a studio where, my wife's studio has a pottery studio right next to where I paint, and we'll both be in there working at the same time, and we don't even hardly say anything, except someone will eventually say, are you getting hungry? I'm getting hungry, and then we stop. But it's, I don't know, it's something nice about it, to not always be
Would you say
bothered.
it's a meditative process, meditative state that you go into, even though it's so outrageous what you're actually
Probably
painting?
not for me, because I'm usually, like I said, watching a movie and playing music at the same time while I'm painting. So I have to dial that back when we're working together, because it could probably be pretty annoying.
The other thing struck me about the paintings is these formal aspects of it, like compression. You don't leave the viewer room to breathe. They're so compact and every single inch is accounted for. And
Yeah.
so I was, wondering about your feeling about the formal properties of them.
Well, it started a little looser. The older the paintings get, the less stuff I was cramming into the canvases. I'd be like, okay, that's it. And then I would add more. And by now, I don't know what's the most current thing here. That's pretty current.
Tombstones.
I just keep jam-packing everything in there. Actually now if I see a blank spot, I feel it must be filled for some reason, whereas before I didn't feel that much that way. But I don't know. Yeah, I just, I as random as it may seem, I take the composition of everything seriously, because I do understand these things. I'd start with, that's like Vincent Price's Dr. Phibes, the skull guy. And then I went with, Laurel and Hardy from their cartoon version, but I was like, oh, the composition isn't quite right. That's why I had them start painting onto him, to make the composition make sense.
Did you study painting?
Sort of. I started painting in high school, and then I went to Parsons School of Design for a while, but I would have quit anyway, but I got booted out after about a year and a half because my grades got so low they make you leave. Because I went from Haverhill, Massachusetts to New York City, so everything was more fun than going to school. And actually Parsons made me hate painting. I stopped painting for about at least 20 years after I left there.
Wow.
Because, I don't like things being too formal. I like the other kids. The kids were cool, and I learned a lot from other students that were good painters or drawers, but the teachers seemed like they secretly hated our guts and just would whatever you did, they'd trash it. Like, you think you're going to work in this business now? And after a while, you're like, we're 18 years old, and you think like, oh, I guess I'm terrible. Why should I do this? But then again, I really grew up on more basic stuff. Like, there was this TV show when I was a little kid called The Natural World of Captain Bob. And he was this guy that dressed he was kind of like a Bob Ross type character, but he just drew. And that's how I learned to draw. I would watch that every Saturday morning, and he'd be like, oh, you make a circle like this, and now it's a crocodile or a bird or something. And that got me drawing, learning the kind of structure of it. And then from there, it became like Marvel Comics, trying to copy what was in the comics. And from that, it progressed to other artists that I really liked that were more like painting, like the covers of paperback books, like Frank Frazetta, people like that.
I was wondering if you were looking at Peter Saul and the LA painter Robert Williams.
Robert Williams, for sure. He was one. I didn't really discover him till maybe the early 90s. I'm trying to think when that whole lowbrow art scene exploded. But even like on here with Rat Fink, people like Big Daddy Roth, that whole scene was very influential of like how, especially when I would see some of those Robert Williams paintings big. Yeah. I'd be like, oh my God, these things are huge. And the amount of detail is incredible. But again, back in the day, even in high school, I mean, I wasn't talking about Robert Williams, but if I was talking about Frank Frazetta, our teachers just laughed in your face. Like, this is garbage. I'm like, no, this guy is incredible. And try to get one of his paintings now, if you have a couple $1 million lying around.
Do you ever work from live models or paint from life?
Yeah, well, not from live models, not from live anything. But I will have taken photos of people and worked from those pictures. So sometimes from life. None of these things. No, none of these people.
No, I understand.
I'm trying to think if there was anything in anything. No. No. But yes, I have. And when I was in school, I obviously did.
Of this group, what do you feel closest to? What's your favorite?
This one is one of my favorites for some reason. The way his face came out was just what I wanted.
This one made me laugh so hard because of you borrowed that from the cover of Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, on the sweater, Welcome to Rolling Stones.
It's just jarring to see it in the context. And then the Beatles wind up like the pre-Sgt. Pepper's Beatles with these names. Where did you get?
And the names are, remember the episode of Gilligan's Island where a band landed on the island and they were called the Mosquitoes and they were supposed to be like the Beatles? That's what their names were, Bingo, Bango, Bongo, and Irving. So it was like, that was TV's version.
Did you see a rerun on TV or you remembered that?
Oh, I remember that my whole life. I mean, like I said, I logged a lot of hours. I've probably seen that episode of Gilligan's Island 100 times without even trying to. No, that's all I did. I only know one other person I've ever met that did what I did. I would get up in the morning and the TV wasn't even on yet because it would go off at night. And the first thing that would come on television was the crop reports, where a guy would just read the crop reports. Like,
you were from a rural area?
Well, Haverhill, Massachusetts. And it was the most boring thing you could watch. And the only other person I know who would do that was Alice Cooper. I was talking to Alice one day and I'd be like, I used to get up and watch the crop reports. She's like, so did I. It was the only thing on television. So there's, and then Mighty Mouse would come on and cartoons would come on and then eventually I'd have to go to school and then I'd run home as fast as possible and turn the TV on immediately. And I don't know what would be on at that time, probably Dark Shadows or something.
The scale in these is so important to you, and I wondered if you were consciously thinking about the viewer's physical relationship to the canvas, because they're all human scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because for the first time ever we photographed, and I was looking at them small, it's like, they don't really look like anything small. So yeah, big, it's making them big is what I thought. That's when you go to a museum, you're like, oh my God, I never, that's when you get the impact of something, as opposed to flipping through books, you go, wow, this is beautiful, but when you see it. And I would like to work bigger, but honestly, this is the tallest painting I can get through the door of the studio. So this is why I've stopped at this size.
What do you hope viewers will come away with from this?
Well, I mean, I hope that, I don't know what I hope. I never really thought about that, but as far as like whenever I do anything, I hope people get some enjoyment out of it. No, don't just stand there like, I don't get it. They could go, oh, that's funny, look, he's got a Misfit shirt on the Fonz, or oh, that's ridiculous because it's Mickey Dolenz, or, you know, just some sort of enjoyment, or like, you know, and if they're really sick, they'll get every tiny little weird reference I put in there, you know, but they would have to, yeah, like I said, grow up watching only television for their whole life. But, you know, that, you know, so like, you know, like I said, this bingo, bango, bongo, and Irving thing we're talking about, the Beatles, somebody will get that. But most people probably won't. But, you know, that's how you can figure out who wasted most of their life watching the boob tube.
But they do require a certain amount of time. When you draw the viewer in, they need to really explore the text and the relationship to the
Yeah, I mean,
image.
they're kind of like, you know, you could take a quick glance and just get it because they're big and colorful and wacky, I suppose, or you could stand there for a while trying to make sense of it all, which would be kind of funny.
Good. And then one last question. Where is this going? What do you see as your evolution as an artist, as a visual artist? How will these be evolving?
Well, I mean, I don't know because I never even thought I would have a show. I just did these and then I would like stick them in the barn. And then one day, you know, Billy Morrison asked me about something and I was like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. And he came over and I showed him, but I never had any intention of showing them anywhere because it's the only thing I do that isn't like that. I always have to have people listen to the music or watch the shows or see the movies. But this was just like I could do whatever I want and it didn't matter if people liked them or didn't like them or anything. But then the other side of my brain that always wants to do more, bigger, went from, yeah, we could hang up a painting. Like, let's hang them all up. Let's take over the whole front room. Let's, you know, let's make it insane. So yeah, that's the other side of my personality. I don't want to show anybody, then I want to show everybody.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot.